and welcome to Events Uncover TV. I'm your host, Silvia Pellegrini, and joining me today is Christy Lamagna. Hello, Christy, how are you?
I'm good, Sylvia. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
What is the actual importance of effective communication and negotiation?
So, a lot of people think that event planners just make a plan and everyone follows it. And the truth is, we spend so much of our day on the phone or communicating through email that it's really important that we say what we mean what we say, that we know what we need versus what we want, and we know the difference. And that comes in very strategically when you're negotiating a contract, because when we pick up the phone to negotiate with a hotel or a vendor, um, we have to remember that this isn't about me telling you what I want and demanding things because I'm the customer. It's about a relationship. And the contract is the first step in the relationship, because when the contract is done, we still have to work together and we still have to have the event together. So we want to make sure that when we negotiate contracts, that we're very clear on what we want and that we're very pleasant during negotiations, and that we remember that both sides have to win. The hotel has to walk away happy. You have to walk away happy. And the best way to do that is to remember that the hotel has goals and you have goals. And if you can figure out a way to both reach those goals and come out ahead, then it's a good process. And there's a lot of systems and practices that you can employ to make that happen.
Okay, for example?
For example, one of the things you need to do is, a lot of people, when they start to negotiate, feel like it's adversarial, that it's me against you. And the truth is, it's a relationship. But when people, if I say to the hotel, I can only pay this much a night, and the hotel says, well, we need more than that. We need, $20 or 20 or more than that. I can't get upset. People tend to get very emotional during negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute you let emotion come in, you've immediately lost your credibility, because this isn't personal. This is business. So if you're the type of person who's very nervous when you negotiate, or you feel very aggressive when you negotiate, you can either try and do a Skype call so that you can see the person, and it's more of you see the person in front of you instead of it just being a phone call and it's just a voice. Or you can try and do it in person if the hotel is near you. And if you see that you're starting to get frustrated or upset by things, take a break, you have a glass of water. But the minute you start to get frustrated or emotional, you have to stop negotiating, because this isn't an argument. This is, we both want the business to come together, and how can we make that happen? So it's one of the key ways to make sure that your negotiations go well.
Okay, so take a step back, relax, unwind just before you continue. Is it because also the way you're going to be talking is going to influence the way that they react and possibly the way they give in or not give in?
Yes. So one of the key things that I do is, if I say to a hotel, this is something that I need.
Mm-hmm.
And for instance, I may say I need to have the ballroom where we're going to do the general session 24 hours in advance. And the hotel says you can't have it. And I know that I need it. Instead of getting upset, one of the things that I'll say to them is, well, can you tell me why? Because sometimes if they explain what their issue is, you realize that there's a misunderstanding. Or when they say, no, you can't have that, I'll say, let me explain why this is important to me and why I need it. And they may then say, oh, okay, well, this is how we can get you what you need in a different way, but you can still get there. So if a hotel is saying to you, you can't get in the day before, it may be because their loading dock is busy. Well, they may let me in 2 days before then and allow me to put my things in storage, in which case I'm fine. So if you have someone says no, how you communicate with them and say, help me understand why you're saying no, and let me help you understand why this is important to me. A lot of times it's just a matter of, like I said before, know what you need, know what you want, know how to communicate it, because there may be a solution. You just need to be patient and calm and find where that solution is. It may not look like what you thought it was going to, but you can usually find a solution.
And talking about contract negotiation, what is important to know before you start the negotiation?
It's a great question. So the hotel, there are 3 things that a hotel worries about: the space, so how much meeting space you need and how many sleeping rooms; your dates, what day you're coming in, what day you're loading in, what day you're checking out; and the rates, what you're paying. So it's space, dates, rates. The hotel has to control one of those things. They need to be able to dictate either how much space you get, how much you're paying for it, or the dates you move in. So if you know that you can be flexible on one of those three things, you lead off with, I've asked you for the week of June 1st, but I can also do this the week of June 8th. Which week might be better for you? Do you have a preference? Or if I can do this the week of June 1st or the week of June 8th, is there a better rate available one week or another? Or can I get more space one week or another? So then you give the hotel the opportunity to drive the dates. Or if your dates are flexible, you can say, I need a $129 rate. What week in June will allow me to get that rate? And then it immediately starts it off as a negotiation process. The other thing you need to know is if you don't ask, the hotel is not going to offer it. So you need to do your homework. You should make sure that your rooms are commissionable, which is part of a revenue stream that you can develop for your events. So 10% of the event revenue that's from the sleeping rooms should come back to you in a check. And a lot of people don't know that. You should also be getting one free room at the very least, for every 50 room nights, you should get one free room to your account. Sometimes people don't know that, and that can be negotiated down to 1 per 40. In a really good market, it's 1 per 35. There are a lot of free things that you can ask for, but if you don't ask, the hotel will not just offer them up to you. So you need to do your homework and understand what's available to you and how attractive your piece of business is and what that business is worth to the hotel and what you can ask for.
When you say how attractive your business is it because if you're going to bring a lot of people, or if it's something that you do every year is more attractive than a one-off event, for example?
That's a really great question. Hotels value what's called heads in beds.
Okay.
So their number one opportunity to make money is sleeping rooms. And usually a hotel, the profit on a sleeping room is 70%. So if the hotel is €100, 70 euros is profit. Only 30 euro is to operate the hotel room for the cleaning, the electricity, the amenities.
Wow.
So if you want to be attractive to a hotel, you can't just bring a bunch of people. Those people should be sleeping at the hotel. Because if you say, I'm going to bring 500 people, so I need all your meeting space, but none of them are sleeping in the hotel, now the hotel has all these extra rooms that they reserve for groups. Your group isn't sleeping at the hotel, but you've taken all their meeting space, and now they can't sell those rooms because they're reserved for groups. But no other groups can come in because you've taken all the meeting space. So a hotel values a group that has heads in beds, so that you have people sleeping there as well as using the meeting space. And hotels have a ratio of how many rooms can go to individual travelers and how many rooms go to groups. So if you come in and say, I will take all your sleeping rooms for group space, then they're going to give you a lot of meeting space. If you only need 100 rooms and you want to take all of their meeting space, that's not an attractive piece of business to them because they're going to be stuck with extra sleeping rooms, and that's not what they want.
Okay, but what do you do if the event is in the city where the majority of people live in, and they don't require a sleeping room? What do you do then?
So you can do a few things. You can ask the hotel if there's a day of the week where, if there's a big conference in town that's going to be at a convention center, then if you may find that the meeting space is empty because everyone's taken all the sleeping rooms, but they don't actually need the meeting space because everyone's going to the conference center. So that's a perfect week to say to a hotel, I need all your meeting space, but I don't need any sleeping rooms. You may have to pay a lot of money for the ballroom because you're taking the space offline, so you may have to make it up that way. They may tell you that the rate is going to be a lot higher. They may tell you no. So you need to sell that business. What I had happen to me once was I had a road show for 6 events, and they didn't require many sleeping rooms, but they required a lot of meeting space. So instead of going to 6 different hotels with a very small piece of unattractive business, I went to my national sales rep and said, I have $750,000 worth of business. I'd like to give it all to your chain. It's 6 events. So when the national rep looked at it as $750,000 instead of 6 $115,000 events, it was much more attractive. So sometimes, once again, you can get what you want if you get a little bit creative. So the national rep said, I'd like for the chain to make $750,000. All those individual hotels would have said, I don't want this business. Because I went in the back door, I got what I wanted, and the hotel ended up making good money.
Okay, so what other structure or infrastructure you need to put into place when preparing? I'm always talking about the preparation of the contract, but I do believe that the negotiation is actually a big step, and I'm going to ask you just about that just in a second. But before that, there is something else that you can do as a planner?
There is. One of the things that you should do from an infrastructure perspective is you should have a form that you can look at so that when you're speaking, it may depend on the event. It may depend on if you're a third-party planner, who the client is. Different people value different things. So if you have a checklist and you say, okay, for this client, here are the 10 things that are the most important, you check them. So that you know as you start this negotiation, I have to have 10 suites for my executives, or I have to have the ballroom a day in advance, so that you don't have to be taking notes. It's all checked off in front of you. You don't have to try and remember anything. And what you do is you put the key information that you need on this one sheet. And what you can also do is just have a list of amenities that you would like. I would like suite upgrades. I would like free parking because people are coming in. This isn't an event where I need sleeping rooms. I would like free internet. I need a free champagne reception. To list all of that in advance and list it in the order of priority so that while you're on the phone, you don't have to do a lot of thinking. You've already thought it through before you've gotten on the phone. That allows you to pay attention. If you are thinking while someone else is speaking, you're not really listening as much, because what you're doing is while they're speaking, you're thinking, well, now I need to say this. The minute they're done, I have to say this. If it's all laid out in front of you, it's very simple. So do your homework beforehand is a good idea.
So prepare in advance.
Have a form that you can use and build the infrastructure so that you've got these forms, and build a form that says the contract goes through a lot of stages. So the hotel sends it to you. You may do some initial edits. Then you send it back to the hotel. Then you arrange a phone call. Then you send it to your legal department. I also have a form that gives me the date, and it allows me to check off, okay, I've done the initial draft. Now who has it? And all the dates. So because sometimes you lose track of, does my legal department have it? Does the hotel have it? We sent it and signed it. So in your mind, you're done. And the hotel hasn't sent you back a countersigned contract. So you're really not done. So it's great to get, again, with infrastructure, have the form so you can keep track of it throughout all the steps. And then make sure when the contract is signed that your accounting department needs to have a copy of the contract, because if you cancel the event, you still owe the hotel money. So your accounting department needs to know to budget for what the potential penalties are for this expense, because once you sign the contract, even if you cancel the event, there's an exposure there. So you have to make sure accounting knows that too. So again, it's all about forms and infrastructure and having a system so that first it goes here, then it goes there, and then it ultimately ends up accounting gets a copy, sales gets a copy, and just knowing where it needs to be trafficked to.
Once you have signed the contract, does that mean the negotiation is over?
There's always some give and take. However, so when you get on site, if something goes wrong, you may say to the hotel after the event, because my breakfast was served cold, I'm not going to pay for it. Because my guests weren't able to get into their rooms on time, I would like a complimentary gift basket sent to them. So there is still negotiation on site. However, as far as your contract clauses go and the big items, once the contract is signed, you're done. So the on-site negotiations can still happen, but that's contingent upon what happens at the event. But if when you're negotiating, you agree that it's one room per 50 you get for free, once the contract is signed, that's what it is. So one of the other things you can do is, going back to infrastructure, have your contract clauses that you know you need and want already laid out and send them to the hotel in a Word document with all the clauses lined out, and make sure that they see them and potentially approve them before you even, as you're going through the process. And one of the things that I do is I have 3 clauses that I will not work with the hotel if they do not say yes to the clauses. I actually put those clauses in my RFP, my request for proposal, and I say to the hotels initially, if you have the space, if you have the dates, if you can meet my rates and you want this business and you're going to get back to me, here are 3 clauses I need for you to say yes to. So if you can't also say yes to these 3 clauses, don't call me back. So I start the negotiation process before I even decide on my hotel.
And what are these 3 major clauses that you consider before signing or before even considering working with a hotel?
I need to know that my room pickup will be cumulative. So what that means is if I have every day of the week, I have 10 people who are supposed to be going to this meeting. And on the first day, I have 20. And on the second day, I have 5. If your attrition is calculated by day, even though you had extra people on Monday, you're going to have to pay attrition because you didn't have enough on Tuesday. So if you do it cumulatively, as long as you hit the total room nights, it doesn't matter how you did it. You could have 0 people for the first 4 nights and everybody you need on the last night, you won't get charged attrition. So it's very important to me that my attrition is calculated cumulatively.
Okay.
It's incredibly important to me that for my attrition, I only pay the profit on anything, on the rooms or on the food. I will not pay I will not pay for the entire cost. So when we talked about that, if a room is €100 and I have someone who didn't sleep in that room and I have to pay attrition on it, I'm not going to pay €100. The profit is 70%, the cost is 30. So why would I pay €30 for a room that was empty? They didn't have housekeeping. Nobody used the shampoo. Nobody used the electricity. The sheets didn't need to be cleaned. So if you're saying 30% of your cost is for operations, and we're saying we know this room wasn't used, you didn't have any operational expenses. I'm not paying you for something you didn't do. I'll pay you for your profit. I'll give you €70, but I will not give you 100 because that extra €30 you didn't have to spend. I do the same thing with food. If food needs to be canceled, let's say 2 weeks out before a guarantee is given, we have to cancel something. I will pay for the cost. I will pay for the profit on the food. I will not pay for the cost of the food because they didn't order it yet. So why would I pay you for the steak dinner? You didn't order the steak yet, depending on when you cancel.
Yeah.
So to me, it's about cumulative attrition. It's about paying profit versus cost of things. And it's about my space. My space always needs to be on a 24-hour hold because if it's not, the hotel can technically sell it so that you can do your general session during the day and at night they can sell it for a wedding. So and it's happened. So I make sure that all my space has to be on 24-hour hold. And if the hotel will not do that for me, then those 3 things are critical for me.
Wow. How can people get in touch with you?
People can find me at my website, which is strategic, strategic.events. And .events is a new actual URL that people are using. So instead of .com, it's .events. And my company is one of the first to have it. So they can either go to strategic.events or they can just reach me at christy.lamagna@strategic.events.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Christy, for joining us today and for sharing your great knowledge with us.
Thank you. My pleasure, Sylvia.
So thank you for tuning into today's episode. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my blog and to my podcast on iTunes. Please comment, like, and share this interview. If you are a member of Events Uncovered Academy, log in into the members area where my guest Christy will be sharing exclusive content. And if you're not a member, head over to www.eventsuncover.tv/academy where there are details on how to join. So, Christy, what are you going to reveal in the next 15 minutes?
I'm going to talk about developing infrastructure and systems in events.
Great. So this is Silvia Pellegrini from Events Uncover TV.